Okay, thank you. I think tunaweza anza. I am Kimboi, PHP developer na Laravel. Now also I do Vue. So today we are going to do about APIs in Laravel, the basics, and I think I can just share my screen as we start. So hopefully you can see my screen. I think iko visible kwa kila mtu. So I've created a simple project here for PHP, a Laravel application. So for starter kit, we are going just to start with Breeze. That's the easiest way to start. So after installing Breeze, you can just write PHP @ install API. Then after installing API, you can write PHP @ Breeze install. So here we just come to API only. Just use PHP unit for testing. And then after that, it will be good to go. So we are good to go. So next, just start our server using Composer, run dev. So this will start PHP and serve, fail, and our queues. So after that, we open our editor. So when you open our editor, we'll be able to see the normal structure. But now here we don't have the node modules and we don't have the package.json. So for our starter kit, I think first we just need to create the models. So you can start by creating, let's say, a post model. So here we create a model and a database migration. So APIs are used to return JSON responses, unlike the other one where we return a page or an inertia file. Here we return just responses in JSON format. So for that, I think we can just start with a simple so here we create our database, then here we assign a user ID to the posts. Then here we create a foreign key. So after that, you can just run migrate. So after migrating, we'll be able to see the values in our database. So here we see our database has user ID, so we put them in the fillables. Then here we create a simple relationship using the eloquent way. We say user
Elvis, I'm not sure if I'm able to hear you. Can someone confirm? Can
Can
someone
someone
confirm
confirm
if
if
they're able
they're
to
able
hear
to hear
Elvis?
Elvis?
Me, I'm
Me, I'm
unable to
unable
hear.
to hear.
I think his network has frozen.
Yeah, Elvis, kindly check your
Yeah,
network.
Elvis, kindly check your network.
We are unable
We
to hear you.
we are unable to hear you.
Actually, I think he can't hear us also.
Okay, let me try to.
Yeah, let me try to.
So, okay,
So,
let
okay,
him let him
let him
get in again.
get in again.
So we
So we
continue.
continue.
So as we wait for him to come back, today we are covering on API development with Laravel as the backend language. So the previous weeks we've covered uh, we've covered we've covered from the beginning, getting started with Laravel. We came to models, controllers, and views. Now we are in development of API using backend. I mean using Laravel. Since this is a backend language, I mean backend framework. This is its main purpose. So Elvis, who was doing the presentation, I think he's having a challenge with the network. He's joining in a few. Uh, so probably we can engage if anyone has a question or wants to ask something. You can just ask before the speaker comes in. Anyone like have you guys been hearing me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you have a question you can just ask. So today we are covering API development with Laravel. So he's joining back in a few.
Okay. For me niko na some maybe concern kitu nataka kujua like on Laravel how maybe authentication token inakuwa generated na to limit maybe a number of users. Tuseme kama kuna two types of users, kuna admin na user. So how can you differentiate? Tuseme admin can access certain pages na user access hii route. Tuseme hapa kwa nini kwa inakuwa aje hapo kwa hizo endpoints zenye zinakuwa created. Yeah.
Okay. So any other question? So welcome Alvin and Joel and Kennedy, Paul.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, hospital yake.
Wow. Wanashangaa mnaingia. You guys
Tumefika.
umeingia sahi. The speaker alikuwa ameanza but ako na issue na internet so anatujoin tu saizi in a few. Amedrop kidogo juu internet but anajoin sahi. So we were covering on API development with Laravel and getting started with APIs. And Francis ameuliza swali like how does Laravel generate access token or how does it manage access token? Then how do you differentiate different access to resources? Let's say you have two users, admin and the normal user. How do you differentiate or how do you handle what an admin can do and what a normal user can do? So that was his question. So I think the speaker is back. Welcome back, Elvis. I think
Sorry, net yangu ilikuwa imepotea. Niliacha nikiwa wapi?
ulikuwa unatengeneza model, ulikuwa na modify model relationship.
Model ama controller or relationships?
Ili freeze hapo kwa nini ukitengeneza model
Kwa relationship. Okay, so nilisha create model. I think tushamalizana stories za relationship. So like nika create controller kutumia PHP artisan, controller, resource controller, then model. So tukiwa hapo, so next, so like the index ina return all posts, store ina create the post, then kwa kushow tuna return. So kwa create, so ka the post imekuwa created successfully, tuna return a JSON response ya message post created successfully na data. Then isipo create tunasema tu message an error card. Also hapa pia tunaweza ongeza hapa success, tuweke ikue boolean true, then hapa success ikue false. Also hapa tunaweza weka tu data ikue null, at least data ikirudi kwa client tunaweza jua the format. So then kwa kushow next tunaweza create hapa return, hapa tuna return to response, tunaweza return to the post itself. Then kwa update, So hapa tunaweza tumia post, then you update, tuseme tu request all.
Elvis,
Yes.
kuna mtu anasema nini magnify.
So let me increase. Go sawa hivi.
Zoom. Excellent. Excellent. Hata unaweza confirm kama iko sawa. Iko sawa.
Okay. So hapa kwa kuupdate tu tunaweza return, tunaweza sema post update, then hapa tumetu update. So iki-update successfully, tunaweza sema tunaweza return a JSON response. Return response JSON. Then kwa kudestroy tunaweza andika tu if post, then to delete tunaweza return response JSON.
Alvin, we will nitakupea mic nini, let you finish first, alafu tuone. Give you the
Okay, so I think so here what we have done, we have finished scanfolding our controller, where we just for index we return all the posts. For creating, just return a response of created successfully and the data which has been created. For sure, we just return the post itself. For updating, we update, then we return updated successfully. For destroy, we delete. If it is successfully deleted, we say deleted. Then if an error occurs, we say that an error has occurred. So for this, because I don't have Postman currently, all I can do, I think I can create a seeder. So I think let me just create first a factory for this. So because I don't have, we'll just use factories to create our database, our data. So here when creating the factories here, we can say, we just need the name, where we can use faker, just use fake, then we just say name. Then for description, you can say fake, just say text, return fake text. So our factory is done. So all you need to do is just call it here. So what you can do here, we just say post, then factory, then we create, then we count, you can just say count about 50 posts. So next what we need to do is run PHP artisan db seed. I think you have an error. I think what we need to do here, we use factory. its use has factory. So I think it's now, we can try. Okay, so here we need also we need, oh, I forgot to add a user here. So here on our factory we can add user ID, say user query facts, then we insert the ID. This is just a shortcut, but I think you can have better ways to deal with that. So we have data in our database, so we can test using the browser. So you can go. I forgot to add the routes. So we need to go to our routes, then API. Here we add route. Then we can use API resources for much better workflow. And API resources, I think it's much cleaner. So here all we need to do is just to say posts our route, then the controller that's handling our route posts. So here we come to the browser, then say API/posts. When we do this, we see, I think it's only one that was created. We see this one, which has ID, user ID, name, and description. Let me think here on our database that we have. Let me see here, 50, we see if it will work. Yeah, so let's test again, see how many. Yeah, so it has returned 50. We have our 50 posts, all of them here. As you can see here, we have returned a JSON response. So on this, you see, currently we have not loaded the user, so we don't know which user created. We just have the ID. When returning to the client will not know like the user with ID1, who is it. So for this, we can use lazy loading using the eloquent way. Just come here to our controller and we say, so here we change, we say width, we just add width. Then here we say user, then we say get. So this will load the user dynamically. So next when you refresh, you can see here the user has been loaded. You see it's the test user. So currently the way the data is being returned, it's on kebab case, and most API responses are returned in camel case. So for us to change this to camel case, we need eloquent resources. We need the resources to be able to modify this data. So for that, you can use in the JSON collection, which say just PHP artisan make resources. We create a new resource, then you say post, then post resource. So this will create on the app resources. So when you come here on the resources, on the HTTP, as you can see here, we have created a resource. So for this, this will be able to modify our data before it is returned to the client. So here we pass what is in our model. So what is in our model, its name, just say this, then name. Then here we say description. Then we say here this description. Then for relationships, you can say here we just say user. Also we need to create the user resource. So what I can do here is just create a user resource. So on the user resource, what does our user have? Our user has the name and email. So we can come here to the resources and we see our user resource here. The same as the post, you can just add here name, this name, then we have the description, the email, sorry, the email. Then it's not a must to return the created data. I think this is only enough for the user. Then here on the relationship, we say user. Then we say new, because it's a single object. We say new user resource. Then we pass this when loaded. This when loaded. Then we say the relationship here user. So we are using this when loaded because sometimes the user cannot be loaded, which can cause to null issues and it will bring an error. So to avoid that, we just pass this when loaded so that if the user is loaded, it appends this resource. If it's not loaded, it does not append. So we can also here, I think we need to retest to return created at. Updated that. So I think now we are good to go. So next we just come here to our post controller. You can just cut this out and say here, because this is a collection, here you say post collection, then you paste what you are returning. So now when we come here, we can see now our resource has been returned, has been modified. So let's see, you see here, first it returns the data value, which shows this is the data being returned. Then here you can see the updated that is in camel case. The user only has name and email. The other data have been omitted. So also you can now, let's say when we are going to show user, because this is a single object, we say new post resource, then we pass in the post. Also here we need to load the user. So here you can load and say user. So now when you come here, API post, let's say /1, now you can see we have returned only a single object. So that's how we return the data. So now if you want, now let's say that you don't want every time that you say load user, because a post must go with the user. So we just come here and we say under the fillable, we just say protected, then with, and we say the user. So this will append user every time the post class is called. So now we can just remove it here. Now you can see if it is successful. Now as you can see, it's being appended automatically. Now you can remove here on the load user. Yeah, so that's how we can create APIs. This is just a simple endpoint for posts which can return all collection, create, store, show, and update. So because most of the time, like for APIs, we repeat just the same crude. So I came up with a package that can help us make this work easier. So let me just create a new model, then we test. So this package is called Laravel crude generator. So you can search it online. It's in packages. So for us to be able to install, we just need to copy this code here, then we install it in our as a dev. This is a dev dependency. It does not have to be in production. So now let's just create a model, or let's just say, let me just delete this post model temporarily so that you can test with it. So here, let me delete the post. So what this package does, so we just say PHP @sun, then we say crude generate, then we pass in the model name. When you pass in the model name, it will create the store request, update request, and the resource for it. So when you come here on our code, now let's see if it has created the post controller. So as you can see, it has created our post controller. It returns a post resource collection, the store, it can show, then it updates and destroys. So this one is to help you if you want just to create the crude for an API endpoint, you can just say PHP @sun crude generate, then you pass in the model. So this one is just to save time on creating this repetitive code that you always repeat every time, and it can save you a lot of time. So I think I'm done with the presentation. Anyone who has a question can ask.
Yeah, so thanks Elvis for that presentation. Before Neville asks a question, I have two questions from Francis Mosotti, who asked the following questions. One, how does how does Laravel generates access tokens, or how does it manage? Then the second question is the second question was I am forgetting this. I think I'll give him the opportunity to ask that question again.
Okay, so for access tokens, so actually there are two ways. There's the passport way and the sanctum way. So most generally, most people use the sanctum API tokens. So the API tokens, on the documentation of sanctum, it has been stated clearly that first, let me just represent my screen again. So when we are using sanctum, all we need to do is, like, on the user controller, here we just say that use, then here has API tokens. So when we say like that, on the auth controller, when somebody is logging in, so for this one, for the Breeze this one for this, actually it's always for the web. But now let's say you want to authenticate a mobile application. So here we can just say, so if we have the user, we can just say auth user. Let me just do it in a variable. Then we say user auth. Then we say user. After we are getting the user, now we can say user. Then there's a create token. It's an inbuilt function. Then we say here plain text. So for that, we can generate the user token. So here we say create token. Then here you need to pass like a string. So we just say test. So here you just need to pass, let's say, a secure string so that it can generate secure tokens. Then here on the response, you can just say response. Then here you return a JSON where you say user, which is the authenticated user. Then for the token, you just say the token. You return the token here. So this method is used to authenticate users using the user token. This one's for the sanctum way. Then the passport way, I don't know it, but I think that will be a later day used for authentication using APIs. Can learn on how to authenticate APIs using the sanctum and the passport. Any other question?
Oh, so I just remembered the second question was, given your application has two users or more, how do you manage to assign, or how do you manage to allow different users to access different resources in Laravel? What are the ways that you do to ensure that
So
a normal user cannot view some function, cannot do some functionalities on the application?
so that one you can use the Spot here as a Laravel permissions package, or you can also use manually the auth guards. You can use the guards, but I'll recommend the Laravel permissions package. So let me just share a repository on how I've implemented using Next and Laravel permission. So that repo uses Laravel API, Spati permissions, and Next as a front end to display how one can manage permissions and restrict user access for different data collection. I'll just share it here. Anyone who has a question can ask as I.
Yeah. The second person was who? Alvin ako hapo. Yeah, Alvin raised a question. Alvin raised his end, so I don't know what he wanted to ask. Then followed by some by Frank, by not Frank, by Tony.
Yes, Alvin, unaweza endelea.
So as you wait for Nani for Alvin, the guys who are joining, they've just joined. Now we've ended the session, and we are in the QA question and answer session. So we're asking questions on API on Laravel. So Alvin has requested that he will type the question in the chat. So nani mwingine alikuwa ameraise question the was it Tony? Tony proceed.
Yes. So Peter, before Tony proceeds, I had a question. I had a question.
Oh yeah, Neville.
Yeah. So the first question was about the authentication part, and I think Elvis may elaborate fit. Now the second question was, how do you protect the APIs from the SCRF attacks?
So for the SCRF attacks, Sanctum has most SCSRF token attacks, like you can use the Sanctum, where you use the slash first. When you go to a post method, you need to like redirect it first to you need to first hit the slash CSRF slash sanctum slash CSRF cookie. Then you now get to the post method. That one will limit the CSRF token issue. I'll share the documentation here where it highlights about that.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, David, are you comfortable with what Kemboy has amejibu?
I'm not comfortable. Maybe I'll look into the implementation later. Ndo nielewe.
Yeah, you are in the group. So after doing your research, your reading, usipoelewa, you can reach out to anyone in the group, Kemboy, me, or the other group members. They'll be able to assist.
Okay, so I've sent the URL where it explains the CSRF protection. Then I see like Alvin has asked like passing the request all to the model. Okay, actually that was just like an example. I didn't want to like use the form requests slowly because it will have taken a lot of time. But the best way to deal with you avoid using the request all on the models. You can use the form request, where the form request first validates the data. After validating the data, then you come to now you just insert it to the model. So for the form request, actually I can just show you an example. So because when you say the request all, they can actually pass SQL injection when you're using the request all as you pass here on the create part. So as you can see here, Alvin was saying like we avoid using like this. So actually you need to avoid passing like this, because this one they can pass in invalid data, and also they can pass the SQL injection script. So actually first you need to create a form request which validates. So here, as you can see in the rules, this one's required. But so here you can enhance more by passing. So here it's required. Then you say if it's a ID, it needs to exist on the users. Then here you pass in on the ID. This one validates if the user ID exists. Then this one you can say here it must be a string or a number. And then you can add other validations so that the data that is being passed to the user is validated, to avoid those issues on validation. So you avoid passing the request all to here on the controller directly to the model. You need to avoid this. This was just an example on how to implement the creating, but this one is avoid this at all cost. Just pass in an array, then you pass in what you need directly here. I think that Alvin is correct. Yeah.
So Alvin is comfortable with that, with what you've shared. I've seen Francis raising his hand. Francis?
Okay, actually nilikuwa nauliza about maybe for juu mostly sijaitengeneza any API through maybe Laravel. I was using maybe middleware to limit, tuseme kama user maybe unatengeneza, kuna two types of users. Kama kuna hiyo admin, nilikuwa namtengenezea middleware whereby admin anaweza access hii page. So I don't know if it works also for for the endpoints? How can you limit access to endpoints for different types of users?
Yeah,
Sijui-
actually unaweza tumia middleware. Yeah, unaweza create a middleware yenye na restrict that.
Okay, hiyo ndio nilikuwa naulizia.
Yeah, unaweza tumia middleware and permissions. You can use the permission and guards to restrict user access kwa data yenye hafai kupata.
Okay, sawa. Nitajaribu maybe by some. Yeah.
Next.
So who was nani mwingine ako na question?
Neville.
Yes, Elvis Simono umeelezea kuhusu token based authentication. Na what about the session based one?
Session based on the documentation for the session you need to just pass in the stateful API, then kwa on the session ukitumia then kwa the like the client side useme like with credentials so that it pass in the cookies as inatuma your request ya nini. I think that itakuwa authenticated kwa let me just share the part of the documentation map yenye nasema using the sessions part bila kutumia tokens.
Sawa.
Naona Tony ako na swali.
Tony. Unmute.
So hello everyone. Apologies, I joined in late. I had a question. I think with this coverage ni poa kanezi raise hapa. So I've been creating an auth system in my project and natumia sessions with the Laravel Breeze. So then napata hii issue ya redirection loop. Like nikienda kwa the welcome page napata kama nilikuwa nisha login before the hizo login and register buttons they disappear hapo kwa nav, but checking nikienda kwa DB naona a new session has been created. The moment na delete hiyo session kwa DB then probably I reload the page. The moment na click login ina redirect bado kwa hiyo welcome page. So sijui kama kuna mtu ame experience hiyo redirection loop when using sessions.
Unatumia blade files ama unatumia nini?
Natumia blade files.
Like uki login then you delete session kwa database ina redirect kwa nyuma.
Okay, the thing is kama nilikuwa like if I had logged in then probably after some time narudi ni log out. The moment naenda ku login tena na napata like siwezi access the login na register buttons, inani direct kwa hiyo welcome page, so I can't move to the login ama register. Nikicheck kwa DB naona there's a session inakuwa a new session inakuwa created, so sijaelewa mbona kuna hiyo loop. Sasa sijui kama if anyone has worked with sessions experience kitu kama hiyo.
Okay. For me sijatumia blade files for a while, but I think maybe unaweza clear the application storage because session I think bado ina read kwa DB na bado iko kwa client, inamaanisha bado iko authenticated inakaa. So like clear storage alafu retry uone.
Oh, that one works.
Yeah, I think so, like ni caching issues. I think inakuwa cached. Nafikiria bado iko authenticated, that's why.
Oh, so the issue is caching.
Yeah, I think kuna cache issues hapo katikati. In the browser, I think issue kwa browser hapo.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Swali lingine?
kuna mtu ako na question. Kuna watu wameingia late hapo wanashangaa kwani we started Enoch. We started long time ago 8:10.
Leo imekuwa short bana.
It should be as short as possible.
Ulisha zile naitwaje? The structure
Nini?
venye tunafaa tusome kwa sikuona hiyo documentation.
Iko kwa pinned. Uko kwa Laravel Kenya ama Nairobi?
I think Nairobi.
I think kwa hiyo nini invite link nilituma leo, iko kuna link hapo ya hiyo document.
Okay, haina shida.
Yeah, so leo tulikuwa tuna cover any other topic yenye iko kwa like not in the documentation. So that is the API. And tulikuwa tunasema we'll be covering those topics zenye ziko kwa documentation in an easier way. Alafu we cover the industry topics that we think it's important for people to know. So ensure you check the document na uangalie what you can share from that. We want
I hope you added the M-Pesa thing.
The
M-Pesa SDK.
Yeah, we'll bring someone to cover that so soon.
All right.
So
Okay, kitu ingine pia wenye wamekosa like kuna hiyo YouTube channel I think huwa tuna upload but I think for the 2 weeks they upload, tutazi upload leo. Unaweza kuwa unazifuatilia hapo kama umemiss session. Kuna videos kadhaa, we have about 7 videos. Among one yenye ilikuwa question and answer, pia Teloto la shengia kwa meeting, unaweza enda mcheki hapo pia.
sawa. So kuna mtu mwingine ako na question? Anyone with a question? Eunice, Gloria, Emmanuel, Brian, Peter, Rico. So can we call it can we make it like can we end the session hapa so that watu wale wanabaki tubaki, wengine you can leave one random conversations after the session. So someone is requesting that Eunice and Gloria should say something. Gloria's left. Eunice?
Nilikuja late, so I'm still trying to catch up, but next time I'll come in early. And bado mimi ni beginner, so yeah.
Okay. Welcome. Are you kwa group yote?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll try and come in early next time.
So you can catch up. You can catch up with the team. Elvis follow up.
Inatumwa kwa
Tutashare link kwa we'll share the link kwa hiyo nini, kwa hiyo group, kwa hiyo group.
Okay, sawa. Thank you. I'm going.
Sawa. Alvin, uko sawa sasa?
Yes, niko sawa mzee, niko fit.
Okay. So tunaweza malizia hapo. I think hakuna mtu tumeacha nyuma. Ana question. Great. Sema great tutoring. Appreciate. Have a great one. Bye for now. So kuna link ya Laravel Kenya X page who you can follow. Yeah, so mi naweza sema the meeting has ended and I want to